There was a man who lived deep in the Louisiana swamps. He had an unusual hobby of collecting lanterns and putting them up in trees to lure travelers off the road and into the swamp. Once he got them there, he'd steal their souls and then leave their bodies behind. Some say he was a witch doctor. Others said he was just crazy. All that we know for sure is that no one ever came back from his lantern-lit swamp. I've always been fascinated with the supernatural, especially when it comes to stories about ghosts, demons, and all things creepy. So today I wanted to share with you guys another scary story. And if you like this kind of content, be sure to stick around because there's more where that came from. The Lantern Man is a creature in Cajun folklore who lives deep in the bayous of Louisiana. He is said to lure people into his lair by hanging glowing lanterns in the trees, only to steal their souls and leave their bodies behind. This story has been passed down for generations, and some believe that the Lantern Man may still be out there preying on unsuspecting victims. In the swamps of Louisiana, the Lantern Man is known as the Lalanui, or the Lalanui. He is said to be a tall, thin man with long, greasy hair and a beard. He wears a long, tattered coat and carries a staff with him wherever he goes. The Lantern Man is said to be very ugly, and those who have seen him claim that he has glowing red eyes and sharp, pointed teeth. But perhaps the most terrifying thing about the Lantern Man is what he does to his victims. According to legend, he lures people into his lair by hanging glowing lanterns in the trees. These lanterns are said to be a hypnotic green color, and they seem to glow from within. Anyone who sees these lanterns is said to be drawn to them like a moth to a flame, and before they know it, they've wandered deep into the swamp and into the clutches of the Lantern Man. Once he has his victims in his lair, he ties them up and drains their blood into a large cauldron. It is said that he uses this blood to keep himself alive and to maintain his powers. After he's finished with their bodies, he throws them into the swamp where they are never seen again. There are many theories as to why the Lantern Man does what he does. Some say that he is simply a bloodthirsty killer who gets pleasure from the fear and suffering of others. Others say that he is a desperate man who will do anything to survive. But perhaps the most intriguing theory is that he is a man who was cursed by a voodoo priestess. Supposedly, the curse transformed him into a hideous monster and condemned him to wander the swamps for eternity. There have been many sightings of the Lantern Man over the years, and some say that he is still out there preying on unsuspecting victims. If you ever find yourself in the swamps of Louisiana at night, be sure to watch your step, because you never know what you might encounter. As I mentioned earlier, the Lantern Man is a creature in Cajun folklore. This means that there are many different versions of the story, and the details can vary depending on who you talk to. However, there are some common elements that remain the same in all tellings. For example, the Lantern Man is always described as being very ugly, and he always lures his victims in with glowing lanterns. What exactly these lanterns look like can vary. Sometimes they are said to be small and handheld, while other times they are said to be large and suspended from trees. But no matter what they look like, they always seem to glow with an otherworldly green light. Another detail that remains constant is the Lantern Man's method of killing. He always ties his victims up before draining their blood into a cauldron, and he always throws their bodies into the swamp after he's finished with them. Now let's take a closer look at some of the different versions of the story. In some tellings, the Lantern Man is said to have been a normal human being once upon a time. He was a kind and generous man who lived in the swamp with his wife and children. But one day, he was cursed by a voodoo priestess and turned into the hideous monster we know today. Since then, he has roamed the swamps looking for revenge on the priestess and anyone else who crosses his path. In other tellings, the Lantern Man is said to have always been a creature of the swamp. He is a demon or a spirit that feeds on the fear and suffering of humans. Whatever his origins may be, one thing is for sure. He is a dangerous and evil creature that should not be messed with. So if you're ever in the Louisiana swamps and you see a glowing lantern in the distance, don't get too close. Just keep walking until you find somewhere safe to hide for the night. Because if you do see a lantern in the distance, there's a good chance that it's the lantern man trying to lure you in. If you ask any Cajun, they'll tell you to stay away from the swamp after dark. That is when the lantern man is most active, and that is when he is most likely to strike. You see, the swamp is his home and he knows all of its secrets. He uses this knowledge to his advantage when he's hunting for victims. He knows where the best places are to set up his traps, and he knows how to avoid the few people who dare venture into the swamp during the day. When the sun goes down, that's when the lantern man comes out to play. He sets up his lanterns and waits for someone to stumble into his trap. When someone does, he attacks and takes them back to his lair. Now, you may be wondering why the lantern man needs lanterns to lure in his victims. After all, he's already very ugly, so he doesn't really need any help in that department. But the lanterns are actually a very important part of the story. They represent the lantern man's power over the darkness. You see, in the swamp, there's nothing but darkness, and the lantern man uses this darkness to his advantage. He is the only one who has the power to create light in the swamp, and he uses this power to lure in his victims. The green color of the lanterns is also very important. It represents the decay that is all around in the swamp. The green color is a signal to the lantern man's victims that they are in danger. But by this time, it is usually too late to escape. So if you ever find yourself in the Louisiana swamps, be sure to watch out for the lantern man and his glowing lanterns. They may look pretty, but they are definitely hiding something sinister. Just keep walking and you'll probably be fine. But if you stop and look round, you may just become the lantern man's next victim. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever seen the lantern man or one of his lanterns? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more scary stories. Thanks for watching.